Now, what should a senior person do? So if you're the boss and you get criticism coming your way or feedback coming your way, how do you react? Well, I think first you've got to be thankful that if you're a senior person and you're getting feedback, that means you're surrounded by a group of people who are willing to give you that feedback, and that's a good thing because usually it's the other problem that you're facing. You know, I've been doing training programs for many years now. And one thing that I always notice in a training program when I have different levels of people on the same group, for example, a CEO or a GM, and then you've got, the subordinates, the executives, and so on and so forth. I always notice that there is trouble or difficulty giving feedback and receiving feedback. Most organizations have trouble where either subordinates or junior staff are usually very unwilling to give feedback upwards. So if you do get it, be thankful. The other thing that you've got to be aware of is that you've got to differentiate whether the feedback or the criticism is personal or professional. And this is more difficult than it seems, because you've also got to take into consideration whether the other person is communicating properly or has the skill sets to be able to communicate, right? So for example, if you have somebody who says, "Man, boss, I can't believe you made such a crazy decision," sounds like it's a personal attack, but it could be just because the other person doesn't know how to put it properly. So if you are able then to drill a little bit deeper into that, instead of feeling offended, you might actually get pretty good information and pretty good knowledge out of it. So I think more bosses should learn to respond rather than react. What's the difference between responding and reacting? Well, it's a very small difference, but it's a really important difference. It's the difference between acting after thinking and acting without thinking. And this difference makes all the difference. Bosses who react without thinking usually react emotionally. So I'd rather not do that, right? So don't be emotional about it. Learn to think about it. And in order to do that, first you've got to acknowledge your emotions. How are you feeling right now when you got that feedback, when you got that criticism? Are you angry? So you've got to be able to take a look at yourself and say, am I offended? Am I angry? Am I hurt? Am I indifferent? What are you feeling right now? Now, acknowledging those emotions will tell you whether this is the right time to take this further or whether you should just sort of take a break, right? Okay, now assuming that you are able now to proceed with the conversation, you've got to then isolate those emotions. So identify, acknowledge those emotions, and then isolate them. Put them into a corner so that you are then able to focus on a rational conversation. And this is the adult thing to do, instead of lashing out emotionally like we pointed out earlier. But most people, unfortunately, tend to react in a more emotional manner. So learning how to isolate your emotions. So imagine that your brain is a cupboard and you're taking those emotions and you're putting into that cupboard and you're closing that door, at least for the time being, for the duration of this conversation. Now, then the next thing that I would like you to do, or actually what I like to do, is I like to use language that then focuses on the other person's needs rather than just focusing on yours. So instead of, for example, saying that, you know what, this makes me feel really bad, or you know what, you made me lose face, and so on and so forth, and it's all about you, try to focus on the other person. Why did you say that? What made you think that way? What would have worked better for you, and so on and so forth. That allows the other person to know that you really value his or her feedback. And it also puts you in a frame of mind that you're ready to listen. The last thing I want to share with you is relevant to this day and age. The age of technology, the age of social media. And well, sometimes as I scroll through my Facebook feed, you sometimes get comments like, "Man, can't believe my boss did something stupid today." Or, "Wow, I get so tired of working in this company because I've got such a lousy manager." Well, first things first, if you're doing that, don't do that. That's not cool. It's not professional to bring your feedback or your criticisms online. It's not professional to bring it onto your social media, even if it is your own social media platform. Things that go online have a way of taking a life of its own. And if you're not careful about it, people start to interpret it in different ways. They only see one perspective when they should be able to see a lot of other perspectives. And in so doing, you might cause some damage to, well, not just your own reputation, but also the reputation of the company. So not smart. Don't take feedback and criticism of an individual online. Final words, as a boss responding to criticisms, well, you've got to be the bigger person. You're the more senior person, you're the more experienced person. Therefore, the way you respond has got to be, well, like a boss. And in order to do that, you've got to be more magnanimous. And I think the big problem is not just in the words that are being used, but also in the emotions that are placed into it. So for example, if I were to respond by really genuinely saying, look, how can we make this better? How can you give me more information that I can use to make better decisions? It's really cool. Versus injecting emotions into it that says, if you're so smart, then why don't you just do it yourself? Or why don't you be the one that makes the decisions? And throwing it in their face sort of shuts down lines of communication. Okay, so don't do that. With that, that's my take for today.